Good morning and welcome to my live stream. You're here to fight me, uh, uh, fight CPS with your host, Bob Pace. And it's a warm welcome because you've encountered a very horrendous experience with CPS. Now, I too am a victim of CPS also. So I know what you're going through. Um, This is a live stream that's broadcast twice a day on YouTube using the StreamYard application. We're here to talk about an entity which I call the Child Protection System that's supposed to protect our children from neglect and abuse. Now, we're changing the format a little bit because we're going to try to do a lot of talking. Good morning, Livingstone. Good morning, Livingstone. Livingstone is a couple from LA County, California, and they're there they're fighting a CPS case, and they've hired Mr. Davis, and they're on twice a day supporting this live stream. And I'm glad they are. There are a lot of you that do that, and thank you very much. As I was saying, I'm going to try to do a little bit different format until people start calling in or coming in or so forth there. You'll still be able to talk and call in, text your messages. But as far as my rules and about how they get better CPS stuff, I'm going to hold off on talking about those until they come up when someone asks a question. I will say there are 5 rules I've come up with. I'll say them very briefly. 1, you hire an attorney. You hire a attorney experienced with CPS, who is experienced in juvenile law, family law, and dependency law. 2, you document everything about your case, everything. 3, you do not let social workers, police in your home. You don't answer the door. You don't talk to them. You need to have an attorney present before you talk to them. Watch medical trafficking, whether you're going to have a child or whether you're taking a child in urgent. There are social workers hiding out there. They'll take away your children. Well, I hope your cold gets better, Livingstone. I don't know which of the Livingstones I'm talking to. Maybe I'm talking to both of you, but I have talked to both of you, and I'm glad that you're here. Now, it is a very hard and difficult situation with CPS. Now, rule number 4 was you properly know how to search the internet and spend time about CPS. And rule 5 is gather all your documents, make copies, and hang on to them with your documents. Okay, Cynthia. Okay, I'm glad. All right, Cynthia. I hope you get better, Cynthia. Okay. That's about it. Now, the topics that we're going to talk about, and we're not going to do Cora. We're going to do something that Google has as the latest news on CPS and latest articles and so forth. So what I'm doing right now is let me see here. So I guess I go to Google. Here's an article about child abuse and neglect. And this is from the Child Welfare Information Gateway. Now, child abuse and neglect causes trauma, which can impair brain development and is linked to physical, emotional, and behavior issues later in life. Understanding the symptoms and risk factors for child maltreatment can help child welfare professionals and others identify and build on family strength and natural supports to prevent and mitigate uh, maltreatment and keep children safe. Keep in mind that the best parents are the biological parents raising children. Child neglect is the most common form of child maltreatment and it happens when a parent or caregiver does not provide. Poverty does not equal neglect. Child abuse is an act by a parent or caregiver that results in or risks serious harm to a child. All families experience stress. When multiple stresses or risk factors build up in families, children have a greater likelihood of experiencing maltreatment. Other conditions or attributes in families called protective factors may lessen the likelihood of child maltreatment. Positive child experience may reduce long term impacts and trauma, build resilience, and children have families healed. Now, the definition of child neglect and abuse, which most of you, 99% of people, are charged with. Um, uh, you're going to see notices on my screen, and please pay attention to them. Present state civil laws that define the conduct, acts, and omissions that constitute child abuse or neglect that must be reported to child protection agencies and definition of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, neglect, and sexual exploitations. Now, what may have happened is that you may have had experiences with child being reported. Um, Seems we're having a limited connection with the Facebook rooms. There's still two rooms that need to be connected. Now, here's an article that should be of interest to everyone. Um, Good morning, Margaret King. Welcome. We're trying to do something different. If you want to call in, that's great. Text a message, that's great. I'll respond to that and so forth. But when no one's talking in the room, I do nothing about topics. I find latest news on the Google and do that. Talk about the topics and so forth there. Now, there's two phone numbers. You can call me right now. I'd love to talk to you. I'd really love to talk to you. There's also another number. It's 888-888-6582. That's the law office of Vincent W. Davis. That's where you get information about live streams, about books to purchase, and also consultations with Mr. Davis and other attorneys. It's a big law firm. And I want to thank Mr. Davis for all the hard work he does. There's no question about that. Now, what to do if CPS comes to your home? That's one of the seems to be the most common thing among all of you. Now, I've talked to over 21 countries and 50 states and the District of Columbia. That's a lot of places. I've talked to over 1,000 people worldwide. And one of the biggest concerns is when they come home. When they come home. And they find a CPS worker there, or they hear a knock at the door. Okay, yeah, I'll get you the newsletter site. The newsletter may not be up yet. I haven't heard any more details on it. But let me put up, supposedly when you subscribe to the channel, that also enrolls you into the newspaper. Also, if you want to call Mr. Davis's office at 888-888-6582 and tell them that Bob Pace sent you and that you wanted to find how to sign up for the newsletter, they will help you. They will help you. Being accused of child abuse or neglect is a heartbreaking experience. If the Child Protection Service is investigating a claim that was made against you, you want to know how to protect yourself. A CPS investigation is often the first step to a juvenile dependency. Hear the word juvenile and dependency? You're in dependency law, you're in juvenile law, and there's also family law. Now, the CPS case, and when I talk about CPS, I talk about all the child protection systems. I call the child protection systems. There are many different ones around the country. Now, CPS case being open against you and your children being removed from your home. Now, you want to take social workers' accusations seriously. When you feel that the claims made against you are false, frivolous, or even ridiculous, you should still take the CPS investigation seriously. Don't brush it off. It's danger. It's like a live time bomb ready to explode. CPS, is a horrible, the ones that are bad, rogue, and it's like a bomb that's ticking, that's ready to go off. And it's gonna end up ruining your life. It ruined my life. It still ruins my life. Hopefully, Margaret, you're able to get there. If not, call that number 888-888-6582. And you want to hire an attorney? Yes, you do. And Vincent Davis is that attorney you can hire. It's very important. He's one of the top attorneys. He'll fight in every state, every part of California. He has numerous cases, and he has a track record of getting thousands of children back. He's a pit bull. He's been doing it for 39 years. He once was in foster care. He's a trial attorney, and also he's done civil lawsuits. He's done civil lawsuits. Now, the social worker can take your child if they find evidence supporting the claim. But you do have rights and through this process. For example, the California Penal Code protects the identity of any person who makes a claim stating that the information must be kept confidential. Other information may generally be provided on your copy of the SOC 832, which is the Notice of Child Abuse Central Index, listing along with this form that details the charges of CPS investigation. The social worker agency should furnish copies. Now, this is very important. This is very important. You need to write this down. The SOC 833 and 8334. Now, the SOC, I'm going to try to see if I can look it up without my cursor going bonkers. Well, there goes my computer. I tried to type it in and boy, this is getting really hard here. SOC 833. The SOC 833 stands for the Child Abuse Central Index. It's request for a grievance hearing. It's request for a grievance hearing. Now, it explains your rights to a grievance hearing and the procedure involved in that process. Should you decide to request a grievance hearing, you must complete the SOC 834. Now, very careful, choose your words. You can have a lawyer present. Now, I really highly recommend a lawyer is hired by you because you're in an area where it's like open heart surgery. You need a professional doctor. A layperson or a plumber or mechanic can't do open heart surgery, and they certainly can't defend you in the child protection system. You're in dependency court, so you need to have that lawyer. You don't need to talk to them alone, and you shouldn't, because things you may say or do will end up hurting you in ramification. So, um, okay, sorry for the interruption here. Boy, busy morning with my law office here. Um, anyway, Margaret, were you able to find that how to sign up for the newsletter? Despite how emotional charged these situations are, you must remain calm. That is the key to it. When interacting with social workers and police officers, anything you say will be used in a CPS investigation as evidence. So my advice is say very little to them. Tell them your name and take the information, but tell them you need to have your attorney present because you're entitled to attorney through all legal proceedings. In many circumstances, best to say nothing at all. Unfortunately, many social workers approach each new case with the presumption that you're guilty. See, that's the hard thing. They call in and they um, they call in and the people that are reporting incidents of child abuse, they call in. They're the people. They're either lay people or professionals. And the professional required by law to report abuse. So when they call in, the investigator at CPS assumes you're guilty. It's the only court of law where you're guilty till you're proven innocent. It's a really hard thing to understand, but you got to be careful there. And so confirmation bias controls any future action or conversations they have with you. Do not invite them in unless they show up your door with a search warrant in hand. Do not let them in. It is second nature for many people to want to be accommodating and cooperative as the best course action to prove their innocence. But this is not always the case. The CPS claims their goal is for children to stay in their homes when it's safe to do so. But upon entering your home, they'll likely be looking for evidence and to support the claims that they're investigating. It's like you open up a can of worms. First of all, most of you don't know what CPS is. You're not taught it. It isn't a life skill that should be taught, but you have to be careful. It's a government entity and may be changed because right now we're making a lot of changes in government. And social services is one of the areas. So it's a two-part thing. If you're being investigated or had contact with CPS, that requires you right away to get an attorney. And don't ask for an attorney from CPS. They'll provide you what's called a court-appointed attorney. And that court-appointed attorney will not be trained in dependency law, juvenile law, or family law. They're criminal attorneys working for CPS. So they're not going to have their best interests in your case. Furthermore, they're overwhelmed with 30 or more cases, so they don't have time to talk outside of the courtroom. So it's really something that you got to get an attorney. And it's one of those things you cannot get away with that. Now, if the claim against you for any kind of physical abuse, you want your child to obtain a physical examination by their doctor. It's your pediatrician who will examine your child. Don't wait and let CPS offer their doctor. The pediatrician will evaluate medical history and current findings. Pay specific attention to bruising, patterns, tenderness, and possible radiographic tests like x-rays. Next thing you need to do is you want to make a list of caregivers. If CPS removes a child from your home, you should have a list of people who can take them while the investigation is ongoing. Now, this list can include children's grandparents, aunts, uncles, or any other relative or close kin or close friends of the family. You can also provide a safe space for them until they're clear to return home. You see, you don't want them in foster care. Foster care, most of them has really been bad. See, this is the problem is you don't know what's bad or good out there because you have an entity that's gone rogue that found out money is more important. Money is more and more important, and they want that. They want that thing. So you're going to have your child physical exam. If there's physical, I don't know what the claims are, but CPS investigators can make even the best parents feel scared and helpless. You're right. I consider myself a great parent. I have 42 years of marriage. I've helped raise 6 children. 3 of the older children, they have children themselves, and they're leading very productive life. I think my upbringing helped them, me and my wife. But it's my 3 younger children that they kidnap and they traffic into foster care. The foster care system was awful in my case. The child protection system was awful in my case. Knowing what your rights are, and that's one thing you need to know your rights. Go look it up, search the internet. What are my civil rights in CPS investigation? There's a great way to start off, and you'll see hundreds of answers that way. Knowing your rights and your family can help you get through the difficult process. It is very difficult. You're like Alice in Wonderland. You fell in the rabbit hole, you met the Cheshire Cat, and you're going from one room to the next room not knowing what's up. They're that confusing. Now, Child Protective Services is an agency responsible for investigating reports of child abuse and neglect. The agency's primary goal is to ensure the safety and well-being of children while supporting families to provide a safe home environment. CPS operates under specific guidelines of laws that vary by state, but generally involve uh, the following responsibility. 1. Investigating reports of abuse or neglect. CPS investigates complaints or reports submitted by mandatory reporters. Those examples are teachers, doctors, or neighbors, or concerned individuals. Mandatory reporters are teachers and doctors, not neighbors. Neighbors are not mandatory by law. They're called lay people. Now, the CPS assesses the child's safety. The agency evaluates the living conditions and circumstances to determine if a child is at immediate risk. They took my children that weren't at immediate risk. They weren't in danger. They weren't in danger. Now, providing services. If the child remains with their family, CPS may offer resources like parenting classes, counseling, or substance abuse treatment to help improve the home environment. CPS may recommend temporary removal of the child from the home. This can lead to foster care placement or kinship care arrangement. It's important to note that while CPS mission is to protect children, the process can feel invasive and intimidating for most families. As CPS comes to your home, it's critical to understand your rights and obligations during the investigation. That is to not let them in your home. They need to have a search warrant to be inside your home. Now, when CPS comes to your home, it's often because they receive a report of alleged child abuse or neglect. Now, you can look at California Welfare and Institution Code, Section 300, which will tell you all about neglect and abuse. Now, in California, child abuse can include a physical harm, emotional trauma, a sexual exploitation, or or a or willful cruelty inflicted on a child. Now, child neglect, on the other hand, typically involves failing to provide basic necessities like food, shelter, clothing, medical care, or proper supervision, which puts the child at risk. These allegations can lead to CP investigation, court hearings, and yeah. If you're facing these serious accusations, it's crucial to have an experienced CPS defense lawyer by your side. That's what you need. Hello, Tori Johnson. How are you doing? And welcome. Welcome to my live stream. We're here talking about topics on Google. You're welcome to call in and discuss things, or to be a guest on my podcast. Um, I'm showing you things on the screen to read, so I don't need to reread them to regurgitate to you on that. Yeah, it's horrible what they say there. Now, we're halfway through my live stream. You're welcome to call in or text a message to me. I'd love to have you as a guest on my live stream. And there are different things I'm ticking across the bottom that will help you. There's a sandstorm where you can get publications and so forth. Now, the stages of child protection process. Stage 1, the statutory assessment. That's where they look at things and see if the allegations of abuse or neglect are true. The second stage is the strategy discussion. That's where they meet with you. That's where they meet with you, and if they take the children, they want to develop a plan for the children to stay with the family or the relatives there. Now, the sandstorm that's going across the bottom is good to get books and consultations. That's really important. Okay, how much does Vincent Davis cost? Well, he has special right now. If you're a guest on my podcast or you call in, he's free for 15 minutes to talk to. He'll talk to you on a private Zoom conference call for 15 minutes. Now, if you want to hire him, he's $500 per hour. And he has a retainer, for instance, for LA County, that is $5,000 retainer for LA County. And so you have to be, come up with the finances. It's not cheap, but it's well worth it. So, for instance, I have a deal right now at $60 for 30 minutes. You go to that website, and let me put that back up again. That he'll talk to you for 30 minutes for $60. 30 minutes for $60. You pay the $60 to that website. You sign up for 30 minutes with Vincent Davis. It's well worth that initial consultation there. So, with further ado, I will step aside on that one there. Okay, Tori's in Utah. Welcome from Utah. Tori. Thank you so much. And I hope that now to come to Utah, that's a specialized quote. You'll have to figure out the per diem that goes with the retainer, the airfare, the ground transportation, the hotel, and the food. Those things you need to factor in to the the consultation. So, um, if you're serious about doing that, Tori, I would like you to call me right after the show, and we can talk about it. Okay? We can talk about of how to retain Mr. Davis and the price, and I'll ask him how much it would be. I'll need to know the city and the county as well as to know the state. So that would be important for me. Okay. Oops, I left my phone number off. Need to put it back on there. Oh, it is on there. Good. But my ticket across the screen for $60 was off. Okay. All right. What I'm doing today, if somebody had realized, I'm doing something different. Instead of talking about my case and the rules over and over and over, unless I have somebody to talk to, I'm going to start picking topics. Um, I'm going to start picking topics in the Google topic area on CPS. Now, the core CPS functions investigation of child abuse and neglect. CPS agencies investigate reports of suspected child abuse or neglect, determine the validity of the allegations, the level of risk to the child. Intervention and services. If abuse or neglect is substantiated, CPS may intervene by providing services to the family, such as counseling, parenting classes, support for substance abuse or mental health issues. There's something called safety planning. CPS works with family to develop safety plans to ensure the child's immediate safety and preventive further harm. Out of home care. In some cases, CPS may place a child in foster care, another out-of-home care setting, if the child's safety cannot be ensured in their home evaluation. So, even though my kids had their own bedroom and lived upstairs, they thought me sorting through my parents' belongings would be too much for them. Now, family reunification. That should be the goal if your children are taken from you. That should be the goal. Family reunification. Now, there's some messages that have come in. And let me see here. Tori says, so right now I'm in the middle of voting my case. Does he work with appeals? Yes, he works with appeals. He's a trial attorney. He's one of the best around. The first foster care placement, my 5-year-old was forced to eat food from the trash cans. If she refused, they twisted her fingers. That sounds terrible. God, that's terrible, Margaret. Margaret, you might tell Tori Johnson that you have hired Mr. Davis. Also, Livingston, Cynthia, tell Tori Johnson you hired Mr. Davis. And so, he's a all-around at best attorney there, Tori, all around. Now back to the article. Now there's also a part called adoption. CPS plays a role in the facility adoptions, both for children in foster care and for children who are not in state custody but are in the need of a permanent family. Foster care, CPS involved in the placement, supervision, and support of children in foster care. Now, child maltreatment. This encompasses various forms of abuse and neglect, including physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, as well as neglect. Prevention. CPS agencies often implement prevention programs to reduce the risk of child maltreatment, such as home visitation programs for new parents and community-based individuals. Now, data and research. CPS agencies collect and analyze data on child maltreatment effective. So remember, they're going to have a record. If you're in foster care, they're going to know you about that. Further, Margaret says they made her eat the banana peel without the middle in it. Oh, that's terrible. Margaret says, and then the CPS worker had the audacity to call my 5-year-old a liar. Well, I'm sorry to hear about that, you know. Two of my 7 Facebook rooms are not working, so hopefully they'll get it fixed. Now, CPS receives their funding from the state, and the state receives it from the federal. The advocacy and policy. CPS agency also advocate for policy and resources support to children and families. Yeah. I'm trying to move around in these topics, and it's uh, hard. It's hard to do that. Let me see here. Okay. Now, West Virginia lawmakers have vowed to fight for child welfare reform. So that's good news. Lawmakers discussed a bill which would study how West Virginia takes care of children in the Children Welfare Program, but it was voted down. Oh my goodness. Why would they vote something down? Geez. Child caseworkers in Ohio, according to the spokesman, 11,808 children and 4,635 families manage a monthly average. That's how much they're doing in Ohio. Government targets child protection disability services and home care for extra spending cuts. Well, this is something that's happening now with Doge. Child protection and social worker service will be cut by 12.6 million euros. Oh, wait, this is not in the United States. This is in, where is this at? Oh, boy. It's weird, the news. You go from West Virginia to, I'm trying to look at the latest news here, and it's just hard. South Korea sent babies abroad like luggage to avoid welfare costs. Now, that is a very interesting article. For decades, there was a source of joy to couples unable to have children of their own. Orphan crib babies were flown abroad and adopted. Uh, well, just the article ends there. In Lewis County around Ohio, there is a critical shortage of caseworkers. In North Carolina, where there's been so many fires and hurricanes and rain and so forth. Now, in that Ohio case, in Lucas County, where there's a shortage of critical workers, these ads are driving nuts. Children need to be protected. The case of a 13-year-old Kalami Latig, who was murdered and found in a dilapidated house in Toledo, serves as a painful reminder of the crucial diligence needed to protect children. There are horrible cases out there. It is horrible. By the way, does anyone want to talk on my live stream or call in or be a guest? I'd love to have some interaction in here. I don't know if reading articles or talk about articles about the news for the full 60 minutes is going to be beneficial. Um, I know Livingston's been very busy with all her messages, but I don't see any questions, Cynthia. What I do need to know from you is what is your case? What's the latest on your case, Livingston? Well, the child dies, and now they're thinking about hiring more workers, I guess. I don't understand that at all. On March 17th, which is only a couple days ago, before Kalimi was reported missing, the agency put out a news release promoting a career expo. The agency says it was experienced a profound case worker shortage that has weighed heavily on the child protection system in Ohio. At any time for the last year or so, we've had over 20 casework positions available. At the start of 2023, 1 in 5 children's service caseworkers position in Ohio was vacant. And by the end of the year, another 20% of the remainder caseworkers had resigned. In 21 counties, turnover reached 40% or more, and 43% of all caseworkers has less than 2 years' experience. Wow, 2 years' experience in dealing with their families. This is all in Ohio. This phenomenon has persisted since we exited COVID. It is across multiple industries. It's across every county in Ohio. And a lot of other states are experiencing what we're calling a um, calling a workforce crisis. Mr. Muse says Mr. Hughes spoke interview up last week, conducted Tuesday. Kalani's body was discovered, but largely before concerns about the agency was raised. Some cases involve providing access to resources for improved health and well being, while other cases require rescues from abuse and neglect. The job is hard. We must try to disguise that. Um, I know sometimes family's no good, Margaret. And Margaret, my in-laws are the ones that started making falsifiable claims against my wife and I, her daughter, my in-laws, the grandparents, the whole family was against us being together as a family. So this goes on to talk about adequate staffing. It's a really lengthy article here, and they're trying to intermix a work expo, but wait till Doge gets involved, investigating, be a lot more people laid off and social workers. Yeah, they're going to need counseling for a long time. I agree with you, Margaret. I agree with you. Well, I've reached my 11 o'clock and I need to go because I have a doctor's appointment. So I'm leaving here very quickly. Thank you so much, Margaret, for being in my room. Thank you, Cynthia Long Livingstone. And there's another person in here. Thank you, Tori Johnson from Utah. Thank you all for being in my live stream. I'll be on again tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Keep fighting for your kids. God bless you. And I'll